we wanted to simulate a real-world application of RehabMyPatient software. So we took our kids to their stand at Therapy Expo to demonstrate the injury challenges that parents face and to see how responsive their software is under pressure.
So we're here on RehabMyPatient stand, and we weren't allowed to bring we've got three 2-year-olds. They're a little bit bigger than this now, but we wanted to do a piece of content to demonstrate some of the challenges that new parents face, which are, it's fair to say, whole body life challenges, right?
Whole body experiences, I think. Experiences rather than challenges, I think. It's
Absolutely.
a learning curve,
Absolutely.
but a steep one.
So whilst these aren't going to wriggle quite as much as our kids do, they are our little props for today. And so what we're going to demonstrate is just examples of some of the movements and things that you're going to need to do, and then the rehab challenges that you then face, right? So let's just start, where should we start? Spine? Right.
I was going to say spine.
There's a lot of picking up and lifting, right?
Yeah.
So often from the floor or from a cot.
Yeah.
So
do not place babies down in that fashion.
Rob's just sort of cast it down like that.
Yeah.
So obviously people will modify around their symptoms, right? So that might end up being like this because they're sort of staying stiff-backed. Or they might be completely in agony by stooping over it and not be ready for that. What we're doing, hinging over it.
Yeah, a bit of a hinge, a bit of a nice hinge going forwards. Yeah.
Really. Often you're needing to get on and off the floor with them.
I'll go for a lunge with as a new parent, that type of position, getting down, because when you're changing a nappy, kids playing on the floor, they're lying in one of those silly frame things. I don't know what the word for that is, and they're little dangling. But you're getting down that position, getting down into a lunge, and then you can actually, interact with your child, which is, something which we forget to do a lot, because you're also quite annoyed by your child quite a lot of the time because it's woken you up a lot, so you have to pretend to like it some of the time.
But when we're then talking about not just the sort of spinal or when you're on the floor, I developed equipment. Did you have any of that?
I didn't. My wife did.
I got told by many people on Twitter they enjoyed telling me that don't worry, it'll resolve when I stop breastfeeding. But of course, with lifting and carrying, that's another classic, even more so popular sometimes.
But the challenge is with that is you can't stop. There's no just don't put. If it was a sports technique or a sports injury, you can kind of calm it down a bit. But if you've got to pick at your baby 100 times a day, you can't really not do that. So you can't really not breastfeed.
So classic modifications on that is that you're gonna alter and tinker with your technique on lifting, which is sometimes a massive habit change. And the ways in which you might do that is, of course, then trying to get them to go palm up rather than always with that deviation, overstrain on that lateral wrist. And so when it comes to then that lift, it's a classic, especially as they get a bit older, get a bit bigger. They're standing there, they want lifting like that, under the armpits, like so. And so trying to get them to vary their lifting technique is sometimes difficult, and you need those sorts of prompts.
Just to stop that aggravation every single minute of every day.
I think you're going to probably lose this in the rafters, but of course when I was throwing them up and down on there, that does then, you usually almost graduate into the standing throw, don't you?
Every dad has done the just to freak out the mum. That's the only to sit there and just go, whoa.
That's the classic.
Yeah.
We got this here, look.
I'm going to lost it.
Yeah, that's pretty realistic, actually.
He's fine.
That's pretty realistic, but that's another really essential rehab for shoulders. So if you underestimate the throwing needs.
Like a thruster. You're actually doing I was doing that during lockdown when we had no gym, using a toddler as a thruster.
Over the top of the monkey bars. So
we're
really responsible parents.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to actually lifting, you start off in here, don't you? And the babies, right? It's all a little bit close. It's all a little bit comfortable. They're quite lightweight as well. By the time they're toddlers, mainly out of your patience, then for me it ended up being more like this. Definitely, that's where it became, especially if a dirty nappy. Quite a challenge on the upper limb, really, at fully extended. So that's where I think the lifting challenges vary.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to putting that together, I've just described all the different challenges, right? Rarely do parents face all of them simultaneously. Well, they face the challenges, but they don't necessarily develop the injuries simultaneously. No. So let's think about what that might look like in a rehab plan. Most of the time, the challenges that they're facing as a parent is the primary issue there. It's going to be difficult for them to differentiate the back pain that they're experiencing from the shoulder pain they're experiencing, and it would be really clumsy for us to try and not co-treat that, right?
Yeah.
So you would typically want to do that. That's the sort of center of their universe for a time, so we want to do it. Now, we all know the practicalities of then administering that rehab plan need to be as smooth and efficient and as effective as they can, as well as easy for them to use. And of course, we're going to say this, we are massive fans of RehabMyPatient. That's the stand that we're on today, and shown you just how, when you think about that big list of things that we've just described, all those different exercises, the fact that you can rely on a software to have that library, as well as in the click of a few buttons, then demonstrate how quickly that can get into your patient's pocket or onto their email address. So we're going to, our challenge has been done. So we're going to draw on Tim to see how quickly he can then get us a program. So Tim, what should we pick? Waiter's bow, so we're trying to get someone to encourage a hip hinge if they kind of soar to stoop.
We did a squat, getting down to the floor.
Squat, absolutely, getting
nice
down.
Simple squat,
And I admittedly, it's the dirty, nappy, lateral raise, right? So I want those 3 exercises ASAP.
On my phone?
Yes, to WhatsApp.
Okay, when are we going?
Let's go for it.
Ready? Off we go.
And I was fumbling.
Me being in aeroplane mode was really clever of me, wasn't it? Very smart. Wow, what an amateur. What an amateur. It's look, there it is. Ridiculous. Baby Gym Rehab Program at your fingertips.
Open it.
Open that up. Fair play. Your exercise plan.
Easy.
Ready to go. And I imagine that they then accumulate, do they? Let's say that wasn't our first rodeo and that was after 2 or 3. You've then got sort of like, next level. You know, right, so it edits that and adjusts it. Fair play, that's absolutely brilliant. No, we know that all patients, really, their time should be respected. It's an impressive currency that they're spending their time, they're extracting our expertise, as well as them participating in their rehab. We know their time is short for all patients, but when it's a new parent, we know how precious that time is for them. And so having something at the click of a few buttons that you know you can rely on, as well as then trusting an extensive library, is massively important. And so that's why we rely on RehabMyPatient, and that's why Baby Jim and Baby Jack adore RehabMyPatient too. Look, they're even in the same uniform.
I know.
Look at that. Absolutely class. Right, and so we're going to finish with a kiss.
Yeah.